Ladies and gentlemen, I think that we have to stop the Singaporean fanaticism over the gifted education program, also known as the GEP. I'm going to give you my thoughts, and I wish that all parents would watch this video and discover, what I have to say. Let's watch on, shall we? The title of my talk is to ask the parents to stop your fanaticism over this GEP program. And I think the recent change that Prime Minister Lawrence Wong and Minister Chan Chun Sing has announced is a change that's long overdue. I have my additional comments to some of the changes made. I'm going to share with you, and please watch till the end because the most important essence is right at the end. So the new gifted program has just been announced, and the good thing is that now all primary schools will have kind of like a gifted education class or so, where they'll stretch their high ability students. In the past, MOE will pull out the top 1% or so of school students in a primary school and pull them into top gifted education schools. And this one has been around for 40 years or so. These schemes has been around for so long that everybody now decided that if you are part of the gifted education program, your kids are done for life, right? It's super good, super smart, whatever. The good thing is that because it's been around for 40 years, we now can see the start to the end, meaning that people who have gone through gifted education program go into later part of life and eventually into the business and commercial life as well. And I've seen quite a lot of them, and now I can give my fair comments. So I'm not going to talk about the detailed change itself, but essentially what it does is that they will no longer be pulling out students from their schools and now be spread out at their respective schools, and they now recognize them and what they are good at. Previously, the criteria is a lot more stringent. Now, as long as you're good in certain things, you could be channeled into this kind of a gifted education program. I think this is all good. What I want to share are some thoughts that are more controversial. So let's watch on. For starters, I was never a fan of the old scheme. Well, some people can say, Mr. Loo, that's because you never get to gifted education program. That's true. Maybe I'm jealous, right? But I came to realize after so many years, decades, right, that many of the gifted education program primary school students got in simply because they were biologically and mentally developed faster than the other. And this approach seriously disadvantaged the late bloomers in some sense. So I give an example. So myself and my son, maybe it's genetically the same, we were very late bloomers. I only start opening up my mind somewhere around Sec 2 and Sec 3. And my son is even worse towards Sec 4. And later, then we become very good in our JC and then university or so. But I came to realize that the gifted education program students, quite a large of it, I don't know what number, simply got in because when they were in primary school, they were developmentally faster than the other. But eventually, they all arrived at the same place. Those late bloomers arrived there slower. These guys were there, they arrived there faster, but they all arrived at the same place. And I've seen really stunning non-gifted educational program students academically. And of course, I've seen, gifted education program students that reach there almost the same time as the rest of people eventually. So all of us, more or less in the same place, then why have this thing, right? The second thing is I want to stress that this focus was on a small group of people, 1% only, top 1%. And I think that kind of laser focusedness on such a small group of people is probably overdone. And we certainly want to do a scheme that has benefit more students, which is the new scheme, which is all good. So the old scheme is something I think seriously is really too micro focus on a small group of people. I also want to say that there is this fanaticism in many parents that they really want their children to be in a GEP, and if they're not, they sound like, wasted my child didn't get in. Well, I'm not too sure is it wasted because if you manage to get in, I'm not too sure is it necessarily good for your kid. So I think looking at the new scheme is actually better, but I still think that the search and development effort starting at primary school is still too early in picking out geniuses. And often not, it's really a case where we really pick up people who are mentally developed faster than the other. The rest of people can catch up to where they are. They just need more time. It's just biologically just not just don't develop as fast as these GEP people. I want to quote Minister Chan Chun Sing. I truly agree what he said, and I want to add on some of my views. Talent is manifested across time, and I truly agree with this. I see it in my own life. I see it in many people's life. There's a case where people can develop fast, people develop midterm, but a lot of these talents were developed late bloomers. And I think especially for the boys, somehow, boys develop slower than girls. There are late bloomers and late discoverers, meaning that the late bloomers, the mind just open up later. I think that happened for my case. I don't know whether you guys have the same experience. So from primary school, I was a total washout, last in class, second last in class, kind of whipped the shit out by my parents for studying lousy, poor attitude and things like that. And somehow the mind just suddenly changed and mature around Sec 3, Sec 4 time and suddenly become, very bright. In my case, became a top student in my class and later even a top student in the school as well. And I thought that I'm the only one. Then history repeat one generation later. It's the same for Ben. Ben is even worse. He was so bad in his primary school that he almost dropped off into a normal stream when he reached secondary. And somewhat later, he just suddenly blew up. And later in JC, he just suddenly become like mega bright. He not only do well later in his JC, then he, doing well in his army life and things like that, right? And now he's already finished his company commander's course. Even his NS time, he's the minute he goes by reservist, he's getting ready to be to take on roles as a company commander and things like that. So, he's clearly a very late bloomer, right? Primary school washout, later well. So I think talent is manifested over time. Different people really bloom differently across time. The next comment that Minister Chan Chun Sing said that I quote him, talent is multi-dimensional. I don't know how to emphasize this more importantly to let all parents and many people of us, even who are grown up, know that talent is really not about academics. And I want to share a lot about this reading from some of the experiences I have in life. I'm going to say something very controversial, but I've seen it again and again. I dare say right now, after hiring many people, interviewing many people, working with many people, almost everyone is gifted. I use almost, meaning that there could be some people are not gifted, I've never seen them. But you just need to recognize it, right? Many of us just don't recognize our unfair advantage over the others. Most of us are born with certain level of giftedness. It's just sad that we either never discover it or never develop it or never harness it. But I've came to realize almost everyone is gifted. Okay, so hear me out, shall we? So I'm gonna use these 4 boxes to highlight generally the different type of giftedness. And I also borrow some experience from my own family because it's easier to talk about my own family than talk about others. And I can see that this is applied very well to the others. So the first thing is that, there's this thing called academic smart. Very good in studying, score A's, right? There are people who are just very academically smart. Who are these people? These are people who score straight A's easily, understand the teacher's example. Some of them don't even need to study and score straight A's. Some of these are people who always tell you before exam, I sure fail, I sure fail, I sure fail. Or after a paper, I sure fail, and come out all straight A's, right? These are people academically very smart. And we've seen a lot of these people in our life. These are the people that do very well and get into GEP programs and things like that. And the interesting thing is that, this group of people are people who actually become very good academians, professors, teachers, researchers, and so on. Quite a lot of the good investors are academic smart as well. Then there's another group, what I call the intelligent people. Super smart, brain power, IQ, super smart. They can decipher and understand things really well, analyze things really well. Their common sense is fantastic, and so on, right? There are a lot of people in this field, and you would assume that these two are the same. No, there's a lot of intelligent people who are not necessarily academic smart. Usually, the intelligent people are very good in a few fields of study. For example, they are very good in science, very good in mathematics, and just shit in art, shit in languages, and so on, right? And there's some people that are damn good in, I don't know, rocket science and just hopeless in everything else. And things like they are extremely brilliant in areas of their specialty and just really lousy in other areas. And these are many of the Nobel Prize winners, right? These are the unusual, the unusually brilliant Einsteins of the world, philosophers and all this, right? And there's the street smart, the people who knows how to handle people, lead people, manage suppliers, manage staff, manage colleagues and things like that, able to be very resourceful, know how to find things in the fastest way, the most impossible way whatsoever. These are people who have gone in the streets, know how to handle the most extreme of situation, know how to handle a crisis, know how to take advantage of situation whatsoever. These are street smart people. We know a lot of these people, really smart, right? Then there is the skill smart people. These are people very good with their hands, certain skills, like the sports are very good in this. People who can repair a car really well, people who can fix a computer, people can handle certain phones, people can handle, I don't know, like renovation and construction and so on. And they are usually not very good with their studies. They could be street smart, but not necessary. But we certainly have seen a lot of these people as well. So in my family, I got 3 kids, right? Benjamin is academic smart, right? My daughter, Emily, youngest one, is what I call intelligent. Very good in mathematics, science, and totally hopeless with languages and things like that, And she could analyze some of my business issues and problems, life problem really very well, and able to give a solution really well, even from their very young age. Kate Loo is super street smart, know how to handle people, know how to lead, know how to motivate people, know how to worm her way around, resourceful, get things done, has a keen interest in the whole breadth of things and things like that. I only got 3 kids, so I'll just box them in these 3. Now, there are cases where some of these things overlap each other. There are people who are academically smart and also skill smart in certain areas. There are people who are intelligent and street smart as well and things like that. But generally, right, I want to highlight this, that our gifted education program seems to be focused more on this area. But fortunately, I think nowadays MOE also allow development of skills in sports, in certain things as well. But this is where I want to highlight that, we have a fascination over this area to our poor students, especially to our children, right? Let's not do that. Let's not do that. In fact, help them discover what they're good at. I also want to say this. Each of these boxes comes with usually significant shortcomings in other aspects of life. I'm going to highlight some of them. So from my experience, okay, people who are academically smart usually have very poor common sense. An example of a person who is very academically smart is Warren Buffett. But if you look at some of the interviews with his wife or his ex-wife, his late wife, Susie Buffett. Susie Buffett one day was vomiting and said that, Warren, could you bring me a bowl so that she can vomit into? And Warren Buffett go downstairs, bing, bong, piang, 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 come out with all sorts of funny things, but not exactly what she wants. Eventually, he brought a strainer. That means those kind of bowl with a lot of holes between, that you can wash away the water. Right, then Susie Buffett's like, walao, that kind of no common sense, but he's clearly a genius, right? Then there are people who are intelligent, right? Super intelligent, and I noticed that people who are extremely intelligent, quite a lot of them has very strange social skills. The people with certain symptoms or whatsoever, and where they're extremely bright and intelligent, give you an example, would be Professor John Nash, who won the Nobel Prize for Economics. If you watch the show, The Beautiful Mind, he's brilliant, came out with a game theory and all this and won the Nobel Prize. He's in fact socially incapable of handling, and eventually, start hearing voices and things like that, and eventually, people deem him as mad and things like that. But later he became okay. But what I'm trying to say is that, people who are brilliant has very unusual social skill. Einstein is the other one as well. And the next one is people who are street smart, right? People who are street smart have 2 problems from my understanding. Number one is they bui tak che. A lot of them, because they are too smart, no patience to study, they like to cut corners and things like that. They just don't study, or don't study or don't know how to study, or no patience to study. Academically, usually not so good. And the other one is they like to cut corners in life, right? If there's a straight road there and found that there's a shortcut through, and usually at the risk of breaking rules and things like that, they'll do it, So these are the shortcomings of the street smart. Last one is the skill smart. People are very good in their hands. Somehow they're really not very good in their studies. Another Bui Tak Che case. So you know what? Life is perfect, God is fair, right? So if you are very good in one, I've never seen one person good in all 4. Never, okay? And thank God, that's fair, right? Where I want to highlight is that our role as parents is to recognize that our children have talents and help them discover this talent and their passion as early as we can, and then develop them in that direction. I think that's the most important thing, is to first recognize that our children are all talented and passionate about certain area, and we need to help them recognize these skills as early as we can and develop them. I didn't recognize my skills until I was late 30s, that was already a bit too late, right? From my kids growing up years, I've been extremely passionate about trying to help them discover what they're good at. Then I realized that, oh, all of them are different, all of them have different talents and so on. And I develop them differently in these areas. In the ideal case, we want to direct them in towards this area, which is very important. Please see these three Venn diagrams. This diagram is also relevant, not just for young children, but also for us. A lot of you people come and ask me, Mr. Loo, how should I develop my career? What businesses should I do whatsoever? Take a look at this chart. This chart will help you decide, what I think is best for you and your children. Number one is we need to first identify for ourselves and our children what our natural talent is. All of us are gifted with some talents. I've never seen one there's none, okay? All of us are gifted in some talents, right? Maybe you are very good in the arts, the science, the music, computers, programming, something, right? And second thing is that you may be talented in the area, but you also need to be passionate in the area. There are some people who are talented in something, but not passionate in something. Have I seen them? Yes. Right, I've seen a very gifted chiropractor, and I told you he took a hammer and bang, 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 and my back, and then my was almost healed. He told me he's very good in what he's doing, but he's got no passion in it. Okay, no passion in it. So it's very important that what we want to do, we should have a talent and passion in it. And last thing is, it must have a meaning to you or to your children. Don't let your kid pursue something simply because she's talented and passionate. It must got some meaning to her, right? Maybe a greater calling, can solve certain issue of life, maybe can overcome some of the issues in his or her upbringing, right? And I really found that this box was what made Li Ka-shing, right? Li Ka-shing clearly has talent and passion what he do, and when he was young, he was extremely, extremely poor. So poor that during World War II, his father couldn't get enough to treat for tuberculosis, and he died in hospital. And he told his dad that, I swear to you that we will never be in lack for the rest of my life again. And after his father passed away, right? He found a meaning in what he do in pursuing wealth. So that's to him, right? So all of us who have meaning in certain things, depending on what your upbringing is and what your life perspective is, your religion, your culture, or your family background, what your parents taught you, whatsoever. Merge all these three together and try to pursue something inside. There's a lot of time you realize that what you pursue only fulfill two boxes. At least try to fulfill the talent and the passion box. At least. And gradually then later find meaning in life. I find myself pretty good in certain things, and not necessarily those things I do as passion. Those things I do not necessarily have meaning, right? I then find something else that gives you the meaning. I think that's very important. To wrap up, I just want to say this categorically clear. In my experience, everyone is gifted. Everyone is gifted. Yourself, your spouse, your children. I haven't seen a single person that's not gifted in my life, except you just got to discover it. Right? God has given all of us a gift that is what I call an unfair advantage over the others. You just got to discover it, and you got to develop it, develop it, and then it will give you an unfair advantage in your life over the others. And if you can find this giftedness, you're going to do very well in your life. And usually money and wealth will come along with it. Not always, but usually it does. So the GEP program, I would say, is too narrow, too focused. Fortunately, I think the idea that talent is multidimensional is right now in the minds of our Ministry of Education. And I want to further expound on it, that all of you are gifted multidimensionally. You just got to discover what it is and dwell on it. The last is stop hammering your kid when he is not gifted academically. Just box him into one of these giftedness, okay, and help him discover what it is, and then he will do very well in life in it. So with this, thank you, and I'll see you in a day or two. Bye-bye.